I'm Jeremy Taylor, the Brit on the radio in your lugholes. Tonight, let me introduce Wednesday Night Undressed in an amusing application of alliteration used with some perspicacity and a thrilling, rapturous, rippling robustiousness. Our panel for tonight. A man who was once thought lost to legend and has been recently resurrected. Jason Springer now.
JT, what's good?
What's that? The indefatigable and indomitable, irrefutable Kathleen Taylor.
That's me.
The most interesting man in the world's smarter elder brother. The magic Dr. Orlando.
Yo.
The Transylvanian Dark Lord of literature and pheromones. Yes. Ivo Ivanov. Oh,
Just drives into the
And fresh from his parlor, just Josh.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome, dear boy. Very welcome. Let us commence.
We're talking salads now.
No, with tonight's service. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, share with us, if you would, the pet hate that makes your heckles rise. And remember, it's okay, it's just us. Let's start with Jason.
Now, well,
Your
okay,
hackles.
let's clarify just for a
Hackles.
second. Like, the
Hackles.
pet hate, do you mean just your biggest pet peeve?
Yes,
Okay.
pet peeve. What is the one thing
The one
thing
the one
that
thing.
really drives you fucking burlesque?
The one thing I can tell you, I have been in relationships with women, and the one
Relationships with women? That's
No,
what
no, no,
drives
no,
you?
no, no, no,
That's
no, no,
what
no.
Is that plural?
Y'all didn't let me finish my sentence now. Come on. Now, easy. But sharing a shower, and then if she were to take a shower first and she showers and then she gets out of the shower and she doesn't towel off her entire, no, not even her entire body, just her feet. And if she's walking around just with wet feet on the bathroom floor, and I'm trying to get ready for work, and I've maybe got my socks on already, or something. I just cannot stand it when people get out of the shower and they don't
So
towel
wet
off
feet
their
in the
foot,
bathroom.
and then they step out of the shower.
Solution is
like
you
wet
taking
socks.
the shower together.
No.
There you go.
That's no. Even that doesn't help.
Or carpet.
Because then it's like, okay, don't just get out of the shower dripping wet. Towel off on your way out of the shower. Don't. I cannot stand that.
What's
I
a
hate
bath
that
mat
because
for?
sharing a bathroom. See, you would think that's what a bath mat is for, but if I then have to go use a bathroom and there's just this wet.
That's
Don't
a
you
rare
have
pet
hot
peeve.
air
I
jets?
can't see.
That's odd.
I know. You
Do
just
you
said,
have
hey, what's
warm air jets?
that?
Warm air jets.
No, sorry.
Oh.
I'm not of your class. So, yeah.
In the shower.
He doesn't have
yeah.
a bidet.
In the summer chalet. This is not a concern of Jeremy.
Oh, okay. No, I left them in the conservatory, so yeah.
Oh, right. Dr. Orlando.
So your pet peeve was very personal and very specific. So I feel like mine is like a cheat.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let me interrupt.
Oh.
I have just remembered, I have recalled. It has come to my little brain.
Little it is.
Jason and Dr. Orlando shared.
For a while.
For a little while they shared a home
was this
together.
aimed
We did.
Is this secretly
Orlando?
aimed at Dr. Orlando?
God damn it, Jason. Why did you bring this up now?
No. Number one, we did not share the same shower. Number one.
okay.
Because
Not on
What, you mean
accident.
at the same time, or you didn't use the
yeah,
same
not
shower?
on accident, But sometimes, you don't have money for rent. You got to do things.
And sometimes you just pretended that you didn't have rent money. No.
Oh, tell
And
us
that- and
more.
that.
This is getting more interesting every second.
No. So like when I read the question, I didn't go that personal. I just sort of like, what is a blanket annoyance of mine? So, and I came up with two. The first one, I think we've discussed before. People that drive fucking slow in the pass
Oh,
lane.
yeah.
That
In the
annoys
fast
me.
I think that's a given for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And outside of that, it's just seeing somebody being a dick to somebody else that's less fortunate. Like, how you
Yeah.
talk about like watch the way people treat wait staff in a restaurant.
I didn't know we were going to go
That's
all
a big
noble.
one.
That's a good one.
It's a big one for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that is.
How
that
can we live
will-
up to that?
Yep. But we have sort of touched on this before on other podcasts, I know. I was hoping this might be more deeply personal. private.
Okay, so
private.
So I got that right. I
so
did.
you got okay. So let me try
There you
again.
go. All right.
I'm not going to direct this at my current wife, but my current
Or Jason Springer when you
Not
use it.
past or future wise.
Exactly. Just current.
yeah.
The first Mrs. Orlando.
Yes, if you ask me a question specifically to shit on my opinion, that pisses me off. That pisses me off major league. And I know that it's something that people do. I know that sometimes you need to bounce something off someone to make up your own mind. But if it seems like your mind is entirely dependent on being the opposite of mine, that pisses me off.
So asking your opinion so they can prove that they're right.
Not necessarily that they're right, just so much as I'm wrong.
They already.
Okay.
So what you're saying is they already know what your opinion is. They're just,
No. It's that you can't make up your mind, and you kind of need to hear my opinion to know how you should lean, is kind of how I think about it.
I'm thinking I like barbecue wings. Well, I hate barbecue wings.
Exactly. Do you want barbecue wings? Barbecue wings sound good. I'm not in the mood for barbecue wings. Like,
But Evo and I will share this, I'm sure. There is this American trait, and Evo and I are Europeans, both married to Americans. And Americans
watch out.
Americans have these funny phrases. For example, do you want to pass the salt? No.
that is
No, that's-
that is an annoyance, and it is of the same ilk as what I'm talking about. Like,
Do you?
if you want the salt, just ask me to pass the salt.
I've
Don't
never-
ask me if I want
Look,
to
if I
pass
were
you the
never
sitting
salt.
asked
down
somebody,
here
do
and
you
said,
want to
"Hey,
pass
you guys want to
I've
pass me the
never
salt?"
heard that.
I'd say, can I?
Oh,
hey,
If
it
can
you
you
would
pass me the
say,
salt, please?
"No, I don't want to pass
I would
the
pass
salt,"
you the salt
I
like
would.
this.
Jeez.
No,
Let's
I wanna
go.
shove it up your ass.
Let's go with just Josh. Share with
forget-
us a pet hate, a small, deep
If
down,
we're getting deep here.
deep.
Deep.
I mean
A
deep.
deep
Personal.
I'm talking about
Pet peeve
down below, below
is
the belly button, deep.
Like Dr. Orlando, it has to do with my current wife, my only wife.
No.
Okay.
I need to put the disclaimer that what I said has nothing to do with my current wife. No matter how if you know her, has nothing to do with
This
her.
has to do with my wife.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Which one of the current
So,
ones?
The one that I publicized. Yeah.
so my wife will say, because I do most of the cooking will say, "Hey, what can I do to help?" And then I'll say, "Hey, can you do this thing? Like, can you chop this?" And then she disappears to sweep
Oh,
the
yeah.
basement or vacuum. So I call her the squirrel. She just goes, does something else when I ask her for help. Also, she'll get everybody, when I say, "Hey, we all need drinks for the dinner," she'll get everybody their drinks but mine. And I'll sit down and I go, "Where's my drink?" Her job was to get everybody else drinks. She didn't give me my drink. That's my
She's
pet
trying to
peeve.
send a
It's
message.
passive
Boy.
aggressive right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's passive.
She's
aggressive.
if you met her, you would know that it's not a secret message.
I will
She's
be
just
meeting her around about 11 o'clock on
Yeah.
Saturday, I suspect, because I will be asking you about the squirrel when we do the interview at 10 o'clock on Saturday. Kathleen.
I think the thing that drives me mad is people who have got to jump into every conversation they see and turn it to be all about themselves.
You're looking at me, Kath. Why are you
No,
looking
I
at me?
was just no.
Predominantly, there are two women involved in
Yes. No, every conversation, you might be talking with somebody else, and the person will come over there and say, "That's just like what I did. Listen to this." You know,
Just someone who tries to like one up you a little bit.
no, it just takes over.
They just
and
want to
wants
take
every
over.
conversation
They
to be
want all the
about
attention.
them.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah.
Mr. Evo.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, and you know what? it's interesting
Where do I
because
start?
we can
All
actually
Americans.
separate them into we can segment pet peeves. Now we have an entire new universe of social media pet peeves, like people that constantly post every 2 minutes.
Yeah.
There's that people that are fishing, like saying,
No, Evo, I'm not going to let you get away with this. When you're driving to work,
"Oh God,
Right.
oh don't start me."
when
with
you're
this.
driving to work,
oh man,
and things that make you, because you're one of the most lovable people I know.
I know, but-
Evo is a person who I love dearly, who you could whack on the nose and he would apologise, right?
oh, that's
What I want to know is what makes you say to yourself, for fuck's sake,
Okay, so let me bring up two things.
Number one, what's the number
well,
one
you
thing?
mentioned driving to work. Okay, all right. Very often we drive, and you will commiserate, I'm sure. You drive, and there's a sign that one of the incoming lanes is going to be closed in about half a mile. So you move like every normal person should into the lane that's not going to be closed. And then there's always that one asshole who drives right by, like a giant middle finger to everybody else and says, no, I'm more important than you are. I'm going to go all the way past all of you in the very last second. I'll cut in and screw you over. That kind of tells everybody else, you're less than me.
Yeah.
And what's worse is,
Or
they always manage to get in, don't they?
or
No, they don't.
all the
Always.
nice people
So
let
here's
him
the
in as
thing.
opposed to
Dr.
being
Orlando.
assholes and not let him in.
Yes.
So which value do you want to live by?
I say to myself, I'm not going to let him in. If it's up to me, I will not. And I'm praying, people in front of me, please,
But someone
please
does.
don't let him in. But always somebody.
Always someone knows.
So, two
Sometime-
things. I am firmly in this camp with Evo. It is, in my head, it is the epitome of self-centeredness to just say, here's all these people that are considerate and following the rules. I'm just going to shoot up to the front of them all because I'm more important than they all are. However, it's what you're supposed to do. If everybody did that, if there were a line of just as many guys behind the asshole guy that goes right up to the very edge of the thing, they've done studies that show that zipper effect is most effective when you've got the two lanes. You need the two people to actually speed that thing up. So, once I found this out, I'm literally stuck with this decision every time I come up to this now.
Right.
Do I become the asshole?
You wanna be the asshole.
I know. See, it's the thing. I don't want to be the asshole. Social convention says that if you are a considerate person, you move over ahead of time so that you're not bogarting your way in
Sure.
at the very end. But it's designed to work that way. So it's do I want to be seen as the asshole, or do I want to try to get people to make this work right? And it's my two most basic desires competing with each other.
But the
be a nice
reali-
guy, be an effective guy.
But the reality is, we don't know what other people are thinking or doing in their car. I don't know if that guy really needs to get home because his wife needs him or his kids need him
Yeah.
or whatever. Why? I just quit caring about that kind of stuff. What's the big deal? So he's ahead. Might be in a hurry. There might be something in his life that's more precedent than what I have going on, or I'd be the asshole in that
I
side doing it.
quit worrying about it after I was in a couple of big, I can't remember whether it was in England or here, long lines. And up not too far in front of me were a couple of truckers who, bless them, trundled along at the same speed next to each other so that nobody could go in front of them.
I see
it was great.
all the time in Overland Park,
Yeah.
where you come up to that merging lane, and you'll see some guy 50 car lengths back just floor it to try to get to the merge spot, and somebody in between the merge spot and them moves out so that their car is halfway in, and so they can't get over. And you can kind of see everybody around you applauding this guy that stopped the asshole. But still, I am it drives me batty because it boils down to an effectiveness efficiency thing. It's most efficient if not only that guy does it, but half the people that have moved over to be nice actually
in this
move
country,
over.
that's never going to happen.
I know.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody
So-
falls in line.
It's interesting you should say that because although I guess I'm showing off, and my brother and sister who may be listening to this, my father used to drive and race Aston Martins. And we would be in long queues back in England before they had the dual carriageways. And he would pull out ever so slightly and he'd have a look. And if there was about half a mile spare, he'd drop it down a notch and take this DB4 or whatever it was, and he would just overtake 40 cars and then pull into some unsuspected.
Your father
And
was
we-
not a nice man. Come on.
No, true. We loved being driven around in an Aston Martin. James Bond, at the Aston would turn up at school or other cars they had, but the Aston was always the coolest. British Racing Green. Couldn't buy Astons in that colour. And my brother and I'm sure if my brother Simon or my sister Sally was listening to this, they would cringe as well. This is something that father used to do, whatever. As to my real pet hate, I was hoping that we might get some serious pet hates here. We haven't had anything that's really annoying, but for me,
You know what?
I'm sorry.
You know what's really annoying to me?
My pet hate was
You know
not
what's really annoying to
How
me?
is it that
is
you're
that
I got a
calling
new
it
pet
pet
hate all of a
hating.
sudden.
here we go.
And that's
ladies.
really
I think I've
annoying.
got them going
it's
now.
annoying that
everybody else.
somebody
Let me get-
decides that your pet hate is trivial. Isn't
the,
that awful?
But the fact
Yeah,
that
yes.
he's saying pet hating, like,
Oh, yeah.
that's
Instead of pet peeve.
annoying.
Pets is
Saying that because I'm like, do I hate my pet? What
You know
pet
what?
do I hate?
One of my biggest pet hates is when British people come over here and tell me that I'm speaking English incorrectly.
Oh fuck yeah!
Well,
That's maybe
speaking
the word.
English.
Incorrectly.
You mean English people saying that you're speaking English incorrectly?
Yeah.
Do you mean American? That
No.
you're speaking American
No.
incorrectly?
No.
No, implying that the Queen's
Well,
English
we need
is somehow.
we need to
better.
we need
Yeah.
to move on. Evo, very
We used to
quickly.
speak Latin, and now we don't.
Yeah.
You were talking about pet peeves and language.
Yes.
I have another one that's huge. In America, Americans have a puzzling tendency to abbreviate words that don't need to be abbreviated. One of the things that drives me nuts is the new word obvi, which apparently stands for obvious.
Well, that was obvious.
That was pretty obvious. It's
Sounds Australian.
I understand the texting culture and all this is changing the language, but it's really troublesome.
That's
and,
kind of a
and
generational thing. You see younger generations. doing stuff like that.
it's kind of ridiculous. You know, it's
Well, I leave you with this thought. My most hated pet peeve is metal coat hangers. In our continuing search for best things,
Wait.
what?
Why metal coat hangers?
I don't know either, but we've had to get rid of all of them. It's awful.
they
Really?
are
Yeah.
incredibly annoying.
Why?
Metal coat hangers. They just are.
Because his fingers are so delicate that when he feels the metal
Delicate.
on the
British.
I'm kind of leaning. I understand. They get bent, and if you hang certain shirts on them, they mess up the way that your shirt looks, and you get weird.
On the other hand, plastic
Things-
breaks so easily.
Maybe Sir James Dyson will invent something to replace the metal coat hanger.
we go.
That asshole.
In our continuing search for best things, this week it's our best childhood toys. Maybe you still have them, maybe you lost them. So, your best toy from your childhood that you would love to have right now or still do, Kathleen?
I would love to have my troll dolls. I liked trolls. They're coming back now, and I've just realized how much they look like a certain orange pumpkin with orange hair and so on. But it was easy to make things for them and get yourself a whole wardrobe without any particular sewing skills. You know, you cut a couple of holes in
make
something. Make
clothes
clothes. Yeah, you
for
could
the
you could do
dolls.
all sorts of things, and it wasn't expensive, and it was fun. I like trolls. I would like to have troll dolls.
I would have never guessed that about you. That's interesting.
It's
Barbie
quite
sucks,
bizarre.
but trolls are great.
It's bizarre, but it's kind of endearing too.
Yes.
It's pretty
Evo,
cool.
since you decided to comment on what my wife said,
Childhood toys.
childhood toys. And
I
don't
did-
tell me because you were in Bulgaria behind the Iron Curtain.
That you had no toys.
They didn't have. You had a lump of concrete, and you were lucky.
Had this
Yes, we know.
walnut that I played with. No. We actually, you're kind of right. We didn't have many toys. but-
Sorry, just a minute.
But usually it was some kind of a basketball or a soccer ball. But there was something that's quite unique, and you probably didn't have that. I
Is it a
grew
pencil
up in
sharpener?
Well, no. I grew up in a very, very urban environment. In the downtown area, surrounded by tall apartment buildings, cable cars, buses, cars, very urban, a lot of traffic, a labyrinth, a maze of small streets and backyards, and all of this contributed to the birth of this very complicated urban game we called funnels. And funnels was a pandemic. It had enveloped the entire city, especially the urban core. Funnels was our way of living. What was funnels? We climbed the roofs of the buildings. What's interesting about the apartment buildings over there is you go into the stairwell, and then you can climb up to the top floor and get on the roof. And on the roofs were sloped, and had ceramic tiles, so it was very slippery and dangerous. But we climbed and we stole the antennas,
Oh,
the
Lord.
television antennas. Why? The antennas were. Everybody had a television antenna. Everybody had a television antenna because obviously there was no cable
So
back
did
then.
you make a toy out of the antennas?
Yes, and it was kind of dangerous toy, but extremely popular, and it drove people crazy because they would lose television signal, obviously. But we used the antennas. We would break them down into these aluminum pipes.
Smoke weed out of them?
No, that's later. But the aluminum pipes, the aluminum pipes were perfect, actually, weapon like the blow.
Like a blowgun.
Blowgun that that existed in the Amazon jungle. So we used it as a blowgun, and we made funnels out of paper. And from newspapers and magazines, and to this day I remember which magazines were the best for a solid, good trajectory funnel. And you blow through the aluminum pipe, and you kill people if you hit them with the funnel.
Early version of paintball.
Yeah, kind of a paintball, but it was an incredible war game that took place in the urban core, and it had very complicated strategies. It had very complicated rules, and to this day, the greatest warrior in funnels was this guy. His name was Kolio, and he was just. Nobody ever got him. No, he was never killed, except I got him one time. And this is my claim to fame: is that I got him once. He was just a dick move that I came up with. But anyway, I had a aluminum pipe that was my favorite. And it had a name. It was Winnetou. It was an Indian. Winnetou was an Indian.
Okay, I know what we're
chief.
all going to club together and
Yeah.
get you for Christmas.
Yeah, aluminum pipe.
pipe,
yeah.
So we can restart the.
And some
puzzle
magazines.
game.
I was
you
going
up
to get you a
and-
TV antenna.
Dangerous game on many levels. First, you endanger your life climbing on the roof and getting the pipe. But secondly, a lot of times people would put glue on top of the funnels to keep them together, and it would make them very hard and pointy. If it hit you in the eye, your eye is gone. Some evil people would put little pins on the front, so it would stick to your skin when it hits you, and that was also dangerous. But hey, nobody lost an eye, at least that I know of. So that's
Dr. Orlando.
Oh,
I'm
God.
going to echo my good friend Evo's statement. The thing that I probably miss most are the homemade toys that my brother and I would just put together. Like, keep in mind, my brother is an actual doctor, not just someone who plays one on a podcast. When we were young, we would find sticks as straight as possible. We would take a can, like a tin can, cut the ends off both sides of the can, and then we would get a rock, basically set the stick inside the can, get a rock, set the can on top of the rock, get another rock, pound on it until the can formed around the stick.
Okay.
Then we'd take those same two rocks and sharpen the sides of the can. We would basically make homemade hatchets.
Spear. Oh, hatchets.
Yeah.
Right.
So, then we would chop down weeds in
I think it's gonna
in the
say
area around our house, or we would just find shit to tear up. The most cool thing, though, is that we watched an episode of Battle of the Network Stars, and they had a fire tossing exercise. So we were really smart about this. We started with the sticks without the hatchet on the end, and we wrapped one end of the stick, and we said, look, this is the fire end. So we have to practice throwing these to each other and catching them without catching the fire side. So we literally spent weeks, if not months, like just in our front yard practicing throwing these sticks back and forth to each other, back and forth, back and forth. And we got to the point where we could do it without ever touching the fire side. And so once we were confident that we could do it, we then because it's the same stick, we got our homemade hatchets out. And we would literally sit in our front yard and, like, my brother's a doctor right now. And we would throw.
He's using homemade
juggle
scalpel, probably.
with-
I wonder if
Lord.
We juggled between ourselves with these homemade hatchets.
Between both of your stories,
Yeah.
it sounds like I'm listening to a sociopath.
Yes. The FBI is digging up Lewis's backyard right now.
And you have a file yourself.
So now
I'm
you,
gonna go and shoot these things in your eye and blind you.
you really can't tell us about your catcher's mitt now, can you? I mean,
No.
Just Josh.
Well, when I was just a wee lad, I was very sick with the flu, and a good friend of the family came over, and I had been out of school for several days and sick, and she brought me a present. And I opened that present, and it was the Han Solo Hoth version. So he had his coat and his thing. I played with that action figure till I was probably 13 years old.
oh, our producer is looking very envious.
Yeah.
This is,
loved
yeah.
that.
Can I ask
character.
Josh, do you still have it?
I don't. I was one of those kids that actually played with their toys and not collected. I wasn't an asshole. So I took stuff out of it and played with it, and so it probably got lost within
Shame.
all that
Shame.
stuff. Yeah,
Shame.
You know, I might even blown it up with a firework.
Yeah, that
You know, or
stuff like
shot
that.
it into
Yeah.
space, or I used to take my Matchbox cars, right, and I would have fun with them, and I'd smash them with bricks, and and pretend to be Godzilla and things like that. I actually played. I didn't sit around and scratch my balls and go, oh, I got something in package I'm going to put over there.
It's
My
funny
brother-
how kids do think. We had what we called train room. It sounds there's a room which was just nobody used, and we had our train set in there, and we had 177 air
Train
rifles
room.
with telescopic sights, and we'd run the trains around the back end, right,
Yes.
and we'd shoot at them with our rifles.
Yes.
And if you come to my workshop now, here in Lawrence,
shoot at the
45,
trains?
50 years later, you will see one of the carriages with 177 pellet holes through the back of it.
This has been a very disturbing podcast.
Lastly,
Yeah,
we
can't
haven't
make hatchets.
asked Jason. Jason, what toys?
Well,
what
I'm
was
gonna-
your favorite toy?
I'm going to step away from the sociopath camp, and I'm going to join Josh with that camp, because I used to take my G.I. Joes and do things like freeze them in the I'd put them in a jar of water and then freeze it.
And how is this not
they were,
sociopathic?
Hold on, Evo. Hold on.
Because I didn't take a weapon and try and blind somebody.
Cooperative that we created with ourselves. They're talking about destroying homunculi, and somehow we're the psychopaths.
We're talking about destroying a piece of plastic, not someone's body. There's a difference. And things like Transformers, and just any action figure. I was like you. I would just go blow it up, burn it, freeze it like it was frozen in a block of ice, because I would just make stories with all of my action figures, and I could just spend hours upon hours doing that stuff. But now it's, I kind of miss those days.
Yes.
I really do.
You know what? You should have a son.
Well, yeah.
I've got 3 of them, and none of them ever wanted to play with action figures. I bought them action figures.
Oh,
that's
I
fair.
got them. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to
literally-
play action
See,
figures with
that's-
you.
no.
And they're like, action figures. This is stupid.
That's when you take away the Nintendo and the PlayStation.
This is before that. They didn't want it. They didn't want. They wanted to be outside, which is great, but they were.
But you can take your
never,
action figures outside and do cool things with them.
They were never into
There was
it,
a-
man. It was really interesting.
There was a fascinating and very famous psychological study, behavioral study, and it involved 3-year-old boys and girls.
So does that mean like Josh and I are the psychopaths?
Well, no. It
burned
just
our-
highlights.
'cause we burned our
No,
G.I.
this kind of highlights the differences, the gender differences that are basically genetically programmed into us. Who knows since when?
genetically
But
Who programmed
the
it?
study involved enormous amount of kids where they just gave them building blocks, and basically 99.9% of the girls use the blocks to build interesting spaces, create interior spaces, different shapes and stuff, and the boys inevitably 99.9% use the blocks to build up as high as they can, and when they were finished they would smash them and watch them come down and crash. And it's a very Google that.
I did a
That's
lot of that when I
very
was a kid.
fascinating
Yeah.
research.
It's interesting.
I
you
wouldn't
should-
have to do a study to that. I just would
Yeah,
just
yeah,
go,
exactly.
It's interesting you
Yeah.
should do that, because we had Lego when we were kids, and to be really posh, our Lego came from Amsterdam or Rotterdam or something. Believe it or not. Yeah. Anyway, the annoying thing about Lego
to get the Legos.
Were the
Lego
jets-
is
were the
not the
jets
same
in the train room where
size
you
as
put
the
your
trains.
Legos?
It's a different size.
Did you have the Lego room?
But one of the things we did know But
The Lego
what I did do once was I stood my son, my eldest son, on the kitchen table, and he stood on the table, and we wanted to see if we could make a tower that was taller than he is. And I've got a photograph of him standing on the
Pretty
the
cool.
thing. Yeah.
The Lego
and my
promenade.
best toy I have to share with you. Can I show you my best toy?
Let me retire to my
me
Lego
see.
chamber.
I was born with this toy.
Jeremy, what
I
was
was
that
born
mean?
with
And
this
it
toy.
was and
my
it
favorite toy to play with.
and it was and actually I think I could speak for my brothers. Same thing. Actually, it's my sister. She was great.
Wait, your sister is your favorite toy?
Yes.
Okay.
We like to do things with her.
All right.
Oh,
For example,
Please continue quickly.
for example,
You should
we
probably
would
stop talking.
we would build ourselves a sort of camp, like John Wayne and the Japanese, right? And
You're gonna build a camp
we
with
would
the
have our
Japanese.
guns and everything, right? And then eventually my mother would get fed up with my sister and let her out, right? So she wants to come and play with us, right?
Yeah.
And we would then let off. Fortunately, we never got round to using our air rifles on her, but the other thing
She
we
was
did
the target,
once,
wasn't she?
You're like a young Hannibal
one,
Lecter.
One of the things
Yeah.
we did once, we were messing around in the dining room, and there was a high chair, right? You know what I mean by a high chair,
Yeah.
right? So we said, why don't you sit in the high chair? We used to sit in the high chair. So Sally sat in the high chair, silly girl. And we got there was a bar that you put across to stop the child falling out, right? And so we said, no, you need to have the bar. And she was too big for the high chair at this point, right? So Simon and I managed to get the bar in, right? Then we left.
God.
And she
You
sat in that
bastard.
dining room for half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, and started
Does
to
your
shout.
sister talk
and
to you today?
Not much.
Shocking.
Yeah.
What a
So,
shocker.
Tell us, folks, about the event that altered the course of your life and character. When did it happen? And of course, what was it? So tell us about the event that altered the course of your life and character. When did it happen? And of course, what was it? Let's start with Dr. Orlando.
Well, I've told the story before about my first real girlfriend. That was probably like the thing that was most trajectory changing.
Trajectory changing?
Yes. I feel like I was headed in potentially down this path of like becoming a I'm trying to think of the right way to describe it, a patsy of my parents' church. And the girl, introduced me to new and different things. And quite honestly,
Trajectories,
yes,
for a start.
Quite an interesting set of trajectories, yeah.
Yes.
Honestly, I would say outside
3 or
of that,
4?
depended on the day.
Yeah.
I would have to say it's been Lawrence, Kansas. Quite honestly, like
Yes.
so I grew up in a economically impoverished area, East St. Louis, Illinois. I'm sure you guys have heard me talk
Challenged
about it
is
before.
actually the technical phrase, isn't it?
No, economically impoverished is also one of the classifications for.
All right.
And there are certain things that you just sort of expect or come to understand with being poor. One of them is that you're going to be hassled by the police. And this is not a black or white thing. This is a poor thing. If you're poor, police come after you.
Oh, it's black and white thing too.
Yeah, but put it this way. It is black and white, but that's not the association that I made.
Yeah.
So when I came to Lawrence, the first thing I noticed was that the hassle that I would get just driving down the street was kind of non-existent.
Yes.
That like I didn't have to worry that driving along, perfectly decent car, following all the rules of the road, that I'm not going to get pulled over and just to check and make sure that I'm okay. And by okay, I mean okay to be there.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing that I noticed about Lawrence.
What year did you come here?
96. And then I got to know the people. and I will honestly say that right here at the table, the two guys to my left and to my right are examples of like the caliber of people that I've met since I've been in Lawrence.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, my bad, man.
Maybe you should go back to
we
St.
were
Louis.
we were two of the first people that really befriended Lewis, and it's amazing how quickly also the city embraced Lewis. You know, it's like you belong here always.
It's truly
amazing.
been like, I don't think I had a place that I could call home. So like as soon as I got to Lawrence, I felt like, well, I have always, my entire life felt like a fish out of water. Like, and I think it's normal for everybody to feel that way, but it is not normal for people to tell you don't really belong, like in every aspect of your life, every aspect of your life. And so I get to Lawrence, and it's like, you're welcome here. Like,
Yes.
and it's not just the slogans
It's
of the
not
city.
a facade. Yeah, it's really you feel it. It's
Yeah.
true.
Uh-huh. And so when I got here, it's literally the first time I can say that I felt like my differences that I feel from everybody else weren't a curse, and that I could actually be successful, if that makes sense at all. And that was due to the town and the people in it, the people I got to know.
Josh, tell us about an event that altered the course
I
of
gotta
your
follow
life.
that.
Good luck.
And hopefully you'll make the
One
listeners...
time I stubbed my toe.
One time I took a big
No. So I thought about this long and hard, and I've been asked to this podcast several times, and we get deep here. So I've decided to go a little deep here. So the thing that altered the course of my life was the day that I saw my death as a vision with a needle in my arm in the gutter. And at that point, I decided to clean myself up and make the journey of recovery and not use drugs or alcohol again. I know that I'm sitting in a bar, and I don't judge anybody for what they do, but that was the thing that altered the course of my life, because I saw my death and I didn't want to die, and I wanted to be a father and a husband. And
So you had a vision that day.
yeah, I saw myself lying dead in the gutter with a needle in my arm after a couple week long bender of drugs and alcohol. So that was 17.
It happened
years
in
ago.
one day, one time, or
that one time, that was it for me.
Yeah.
So I was laying in bed after a week-long bender, sobering up, and just laid up and looked and saw it.
Well, I'm glad you did, buddy.
Yeah.
It wasn't a religious thing. It
No.
was just...
Nope. It was like where you're kind of in a dream state-ish, and you're kind of just laying there, and and I was still high, so it was part of the.
Gosh, I
That
know.
part,
I know
so-
so many people that couldn't make that step. So
Yeah.
it's really takes a lot of willpower. And
So yeah.
I lost a childhood friend. We were 17 or 18, to LSD, to tabs. And I remember, I don't mind admitting that, the nearest LSD got to me was under my tongue, and I turned around, and when no one was looking, I spat it out again.
I remember you telling me this story.
I didn't have the balls to actually swallow it. I don't mind going and getting high, and all that, but I just never did it. Well, thank you for sharing that one, Josh. Jason.
Mine would have taken place when I was in college, probably when I was about 24, 25, somewhere around there. My parents got divorced when I was 6, and all throughout high school, there was no one at home except for me and my mother, and there was a lot of animosity between us because there was no one to be the go-between or to deflect emotion or anything like that. And so all throughout my high school and then into my early 20s, our relationship was very poor, and there was a lot of anger, and there was a lot of, simply put, there was a lot of hatred. And I grew up being a very angry, hateful person. The person I am today is very different than who I was growing up. None of you here would like me and want to talk to me. I was not a good person. I hated everything in the world. And one day I went and had lunch with my mom, and of course it was tense and very short, and you could just feel the tension and the animosity between us. And I'm leaving her house, and I'm about to get in my car and go back to here to Lawrence. And I said, no, I can't do this anymore. And something in me, and I can't tell you why, but something in me said, no, fuck this. I can't live like this anymore. I just can't do this. And I turned around and went back in her house. I said, we need to talk. And I just sat down, and we just sat down and talked for quite a few hours. Went through a couple boxes of Kleenexes together, and I just reached out and made amends with my mom. And it changed my life dramatically, because I had spent so much of my life identifying myself through my anger and through my hatred, that I was now free of all of that, and now I was free to become the person I wanted to be. And it definitely changed my life, without a doubt.
Thanks for sharing that, Jason. Kathleen?
Whoa. I haven't had any life-changing experiences that way. I mean, seriously, I haven't. I mean, the closest I can come is gaining praise when I was about 9 or 10. I remember it. My little brothers, who were Cub Scouts, had made a cone covered with aluminum foil to cook things, and I came in. My parents were sitting there talking about something. They said, "Well, did it work out there?" And I said, "Oh yeah. If they had 3 days of solid sunshine, they might warm a hot dog or something like that." And they laughed, and my mother said, "Oh, we got a real Ann Landers coming here," and I got praise for being a smart ass.
Mm-hmm.
So what am I now?
Yeah.
Smart.
Oh yeah.
So I have a question, because I hear a lot that having kids is one of those things that alters your perspective. It wasn't for me. Like, I think I know that I have always wanted kids, and so it's one of those things that I've kind of structured my life towards from the beginning. As a mom, was that a trajectory-defining experience for you?
No, I've always intended to be a mother, and have seen what you do, and yeah, I would give anything for my kids. I would give my life for my kids.
Right.
No problem. But I don't think that's a change.
Right. No, and I was just kind
Yeah.
of curious what
Yeah.
your perspective on that was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Evo?
Seminal events.
Not
So
your bacchanalias.
So I was an extremely irresponsible, out of control teenager when I went in the army. It was mandatory, and I remained an extremely irresponsible idiot after I came out of the army. So I wouldn't say that necessarily was. It was big. I mean, it taught me a few things. The hardships were definitely taxing, and I made good friends, and it changed my personality somewhat. Then coming here in the States was a huge change from beyond the curtain. You come here, and an entire universe opens up, and you change dramatically. But that probably wasn't the biggest one. I'd say two things. First of all, getting married was huge. It changed me a lot. It changed my direction in life. And I'm not just saying this because my wife's sitting on the next table. It's true. It really
First
transformed
wife,
me. But also what Louis said, it's before you have children, you are the most important person in your life. And somehow, at least for me, when I witnessed, birth of both my children. When my daughter, my first child, came out into the world, it was almost supernatural event for me. It was really emotional, and I noticed the next day I'm driving her and my wife home, and for the first time in my life, I was driving the speed limit.
Yes.
I realized, and I couldn't help it. Mm-hmm. I was afraid. I realized now it's not just me. Other people rely on me, on my well-being, and other people, I have to take care of other people. And from that moment on,
At that point, you just come second.
Yeah, I was no longer the most important person in my life. And all my ego had kind of took a big hit, and it was a good thing for me. And from then on, my children's successes and triumphs and pain and struggles became my own, only magnified 100 times. So it really changed me and made me a far more responsible person.
How about you, Mr. Taylor?
I couldn't make my mind up between two events. The first event was when I was told by a clinical psychologist that it wasn't me, it was my family. And that was a very big deal for me, because he sat in front of me and said, no, really, I know what I'm talking about. You know, your family are, you know. And I think the second thing was having had that happen about 2 years later, 3 years later, I met my wife. And she...
Were you guys married at the time when you met her?
No.
Oh, okay.
My current wife, I mean. Am I being... Sorry.
Yes, we were both actually married to other people at the time.
But what I mean is that although this guy had told me, right, it wasn't me, there wasn't any way of empowering me, or, you know, it was like being told you've got a Ferrari but no petrol. So you didn't actually know what it could do, right? And so when I met my wife, and I'd say, look, this is going to happen. When we go to my parents, this is going to happen. She'd go, no, don't be silly, it won't happen. Which is what the psychologist says, see, it's not me, it's them, you know. And we get there, and it did. And because she's much cleverer than me, she, by, you know, millions of years, she took my parents on, which meant that for a few years until they died, I was in a much better place. So thank you to my wife. Sheriff Joe Arpaio's been pardoned. Yeah. Sentencing guidelines say the 85-year-old would have only done 2 months of a 6-month sentence, yet he shows no remorse. As he looks like he could well stand for a Senate seat, what, in your opinion, are going to be the national judicial consequences of that pardon? Could we please keep it relatively short, because we're running over time?
No. This is going to take another hour.
Let's start with Kathleen.
Well,
short means less than 5 minutes.
The Founding Fathers have made plain, this is from an article on the topic, the purpose behind the pardon power is to extend mercy to those who have offended and have demonstrated remorse.
Yeah.
So this is clearly an abuse of the pardon power, but it may not be the final word. There is a good argument, and there are stuff going on now to go there. Arpaio's judge has not canceled his sentence. She said, hang on a minute. Let's see some arguments on this.
Sentencing is in October, right?
Well, that's delayed until she can hear motions from various sides. And the point is, there are really questions about whether the president can pardon an official who has transgressed on other individuals' constitutional rights. Because if the Constitution, the amendments, guarantee everybody the right to due process of law, right? Now, if you, to get due process, you have to hold officials responsible. They have to have consequences for bad behavior. Otherwise, individuals can't get due process. So pardoning an official who has not allowed due process is very possibly not constitutional.
Interesting.
Jason.
Didn't know all that.
Jason, what do you think?
Well, I mean, to keep it short, I pretty much kind of fall in line with Kathleen. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities as far as what the ramifications could be from this. I mean, you could look at, you really don't know if it's going to be all of a sudden the president's power to pardon is going to change. What's going to happen if Arpaio actually goes on to some other political career? Is there going to be some kind of backlash from groups, and is there going to be more uproar within the civilian sector? It's really kind of hard to say exactly what's going to happen. Clearly, it seems as though Trump has pardoned somebody who was a friend to him, and it was a personal pardon. It wasn't because somebody clearly held remorse, like Kathleen said. It was just Trump pardoned one of his buddies.
Yeah.
And
Bill
that's...
Clinton
Yeah.
pardoned his brother.
I know, and I get that.
he
I get
had
that. But again,
shown remorse. It's a
See-
different, and he hadn't had a constitutional breach.
and Joe did not show any remorse. He's like, no, I'm not sorry for what I did at all. And I mean, he has said this line and line
there's
again.
no rule that says the president has to only pardon people that show remorse. It is the purpose. And
There's
the
a-
one thing that that Donald Trump has consistently done is test every tenet, every
He does.
philosophy that
Yeah.
that we have held our presidents to for the last however many years.
Yeah.
Like that's what he does.
Yeah.
So
and if you don't have these unwritten rules that everybody kind of follows, you don't have the United States of America. You have something. you
Yeah,
have
it
Libya.
might be a written rule. Maybe.
maybe.
You know, I mean, the executive clemency. There are some things that have been followed throughout. You mentioned Bill Clinton pardoning Roger Clinton and Rich, his buddy Rich, that donated millions of dollars to him and his. At least this was years and years after the
Exactly. At least they're
sentencing.
doing it on the way out,
And-
after there's been some sentencing, some kind of punishment, if you will.
And they have exhibited contrition. You know, you have this guy.
And
it's such a bizarre precedent because first of all, he has not even been sentenced yet.
Yep.
You know, there's actually the DOJ. You're right that they have rules that are written that they require you to at least have sentencing. You know, they require remorse to be exhibited. You have to write an appeal to the
You have to
president.
petition for it.
He hasn't even petitioned for pardon. Hasn't even petitioned, and he's being pardoned. You know what? This guy, and let's. We need to mention that this is one of the most despicable human beings on the face of the earth. Yes, he's 85 years old. Yes, he might not be a danger to society. This might be the brightest asshole, the brightest star in that constellation of assholes that Trump has surrounded himself with. It's just a luminous, disgusting asshole that.
That's Kobach.
Well, there's so many of them that it's overwhelming. I mean, you look around. It's the yes man and
blinding.
And lackeys, and this guy is the most despicable of them all. He's responsible for the death of people. He's responsible for not investigating sex crimes. He has trampled the law over and over and over again, shown complete disregard for the law, which the president does as well. So these go together. These two idiots go together. I think the biggest problem of Donald Trump, really, of many problems that he has, maybe the biggest one is that the only people that would work for him are the kind of people that would work for him.
Well, yeah.
That is probably the best way
Fucking
to
asshole.
say that. No, I agree with everything Evo just said. The part that disappoints me to the point of infuriation is that there is this, I don't know, presumption or hope that because it's not been done before, we can prevent Donald from doing it now. And again, that's the one thing that he consistently does.
But okay, let's add to that a little bit. The scariest thing is because he did this, now it's going to set a precedent where
Yes.
every other president after him is going to start doing this shit, and it's going to snowball
Could.
and just get worse.
It could
could.
quite literally, you know.
But all it takes is somebody else to do it as well, and then
Yes.
boom.
Yeah.
Then then it becomes normal, and
then
that's
it becomes
that is
idiocracy.
fucked up.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I completely
Yeah, but
agree.
it may put him even further in line for impeachment. If he is pardoning people in order to conceal and aid his own criminal wrongdoing, such as the people involved with Russia, then that is more. That's more reason to get him impeached and tried.
Yeah, but he's not going to be impeached
He's not.
unless the Republican Party decides to.
Oh, you mean
They have to
the
turn on
luminous constellation of assholes? Those guys will impeach him? Really?
I want to bring us back to a semblance
That's a great
of,
name for a rock band.
What was that?
Luminous constellation of assholes.
Oh, the Luminous Constellation. That would be a good-
LCA.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes.
Now on
Very-
stage, luminous constellation of
a
assholes.
very 60s. So,
Yes.
Josh, what you were getting to the end of tonight's podcast.
I think
Pull it
until
all together first, Josh.
I think until we have people that everybody truly starts really paying attention and is not blinded by smoke and mirrors of other things and being, the squirrel, right? There's the nut over there. There's all this stuff going on.
Says that squirrel
and
again.
then we can't focus on the values that go on. Then we're screwed. I mean, Americans are so short. Their attention spans are so short right now that even myself looking at this, I was like, why do I give a fuck?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you have to continue to try to stay focused, and it's so hard to stay focused with all this evil going on.
There's sensory overload of things that Trump does, and we forget about.
It is.
Is it a strategy, or is it just an avalanche of?
The byproduct.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Bullshit.
that book, or it's that I forget the name of the character that it is where they become where they come and create chaos. The leader that creates chaos, and then and you can't focus, and it just
It's a
burns
vortex of
everything down.
excrement.
Yeah.
You've been listening to Wednesday Night Undressed. As always, Evo likes to thank our sponsors. It's Evo's job, that's what we pay him for.
Fuck. Okay, we are sponsored today by the dignity of the executive branch. Gone, and gone. That's it.
That's a good
Sponsored,
one.
okay. Well,
Thank you,
we'd like
sponsors, for the whole year.
to thank the team. That's Kathleen Taylor, of course, Jason Springer, Ivo Ivanov, the Magic Dr. Orlando, and just Josh. Hopefully I've remembered everybody. Want to thank our producer and engineer tonight. Neil Rasmussen has the night off. Eric, the producer. Eric.